Great to have you back. We had a couple quick questions come up from some listeners. We had one gentleman, Carl, from Dallas, wanted to know, will the phenolic warp?
Yes, it will.
It will warp. That is correct. You can misfigure it. Remember, it is a phenolic. It can be done if you store it crooked.
Right.
It can develop a bow. You can damage it. You can take chips out of it, and you can accidentally cut it, all of which has happened to me. The sets I've owned, but I've always been able to fix them with Bondo.
Automotive Bondo. Yep.
Exactly, and it's an easy. Believe me, they're very easy to maintain, repair, and keep going for long periods. Aluminum also, it should be said, can be damaged when carrying it. If you drop it and it hits a point down on the ground, you can put a bow in it. A lot of guys I know, the big joke was when we all had our solid surface shops, was you could always tell how many 12-footers a guy owned by how many 3-footers he had in his shop.
Yep.
So
used to own.
Yeah, used to own.
One thing to point out is the phenolics all have a hole in the top and the bottom, or the bottom and the top, however you want to look at it. And this is to hang them on the wall, because the best way to store these is just hung on the wall, straight. Just let them hang naturally.
Exactly.
Just like
we have it
here.
on our wall.
Right.
Yep. So that answers that one. And also, David from Mesa. Where Mesa, I don't know, but David from Mesa, do we make custom edges?
I suppose we could for certain applications. I don't know why you'd need a custom edge, but...
really, the interlocking really covers pretty much everything.
But if there's something special that you need or anybody else needs that you want made out of phenolics, certainly give us a call and we'll give you a price on having it made.
Excellent.
All right,
Excellent.
great. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, now we want to talk a little bit about cutting seams. Seams are a real interesting part of the solid surface industry, and it's something that you master more by doing than by having somebody tell you once you cut a joint like this and they'll always come out. It's like anything, you develop a feel for it. One of the first seams we want to talk about is a wavy edge, which was an edge that really came into prominence back in the, I want to say, late 80s, early 90s, with the real oncome of polyesters into the marketplace.
What did the polyesters have to do with it?
Well, the polyesters, the way polyesters work and interact with the adhesives is different than how an acrylic will. Okay. The methacrylic acid in the adhesives will dissolve an acrylic, and you get more of a chemical bonding. The big example I always used to use when I taught classes was I used to build model airplanes and boats when I was a kid, and I was forever getting too much glue on my airplanes. Well, the glue would melt half of it.
Yeah, right.
Or the boat, it would melt half of it. It would just all melt up.
Did you get a little on your nose,
That's
too?
right. That's right. So it was the glue interacting with the plastic and dissolving it and causing a fused bond.
So is that what they were talking about, like acid in the 80s? Was that what most people meant?
I can't remember.
No.
I can't remember.
All right,
I worked with this stuff for a long time. But the polyesters are far more resistant to acids and alkalis.
Okay.
So how the adhesive interacts with the acrylic is completely different than how it interacts with the polyester. So it became important to come up with some additional strengthening factors in the joint. One of the products that was developed, and we'll show it to you right here, is a wavy bit. And as you can see, it's got a slight wave into it, and it cuts that wave into the vertical wall face. Right. So instead of having just a straight vertical wall, it's a wavy face. What that allows for is more surface area, which more surface area gives you more bonding surface, which means you'll get a stronger joint.
Okay. So see, I never knew that. I mean, I always really figured that, it was just a gimmick to line it up, but it actually had function.
Benefit, though, it does also line it up.
Yes.
By rotating it, you line your two sheets.
And I learned something today from Ken. I've had so many customers tell me that this is just a nuisance to set up. Ken set this up absolutely perfect the first time, and he showed me how you do it. And I still don't believe it was anything other than luck, but he kind of showed me how it you get the router bit on the high face, so it's in a straight up position when it's making the cut, and then they both interlock. And actually, as you'll see in this joint that we're going to do, they came out perfect. It was really kind of cool.
We're going to take and we're going to run it on this edge right here.
Now, which edge did we run here? How do we know which one's high and low?
We really don't, but not that that's really important.
Well, it is, because if this is high and you put a low one on here, it won't match this one when we turn it around.
Oh, you want me to do it that way for you?
I want it to be able to mate together. We did one before the show, a sample.
And it works perfect.
And it worked out perfect. But we just wanted to show you a cut just because we know you like to see things work and make them go. So, but we don't know which side this is because we didn't pay attention. Oh, I know which side it is.
Scratch.
We can tell because the scratch.
This is the high side. This is the high side.
Right, because we have a
So I'll do the low side on this side.
Okay, great.
Okay, so very simply what we'll do.
Here's your straight edge.
If you got my two, let's use this so we don't scratch up the aluminum.
All right, okay.
If you want to grab 2 Danny clamps real quick.
Danny clamps or solo clamps?
I'm sorry, solo clamps.
Solo
they come
clamps
from Danny, so yeah, I call them his.
All right.
We already have this preset to where we'll line up our straight edge here real quickly. Perfect. And we'll do this. We'll merely use our solo clamps. Once again, we'll just check real quick.
Now, which way are you running with this so we can have the camera?
We'll run the camera, or we'll run it this way.
Okay.
Okay. So quite simply, and what I'll do is, if you'll just plug that in for me.
I will.
I'll take and I'll run it from a reverse direction so they can video this a little bit better. Now this is backward than how you want to run the router, but I'll go ahead and do it, make catching this easier.
Make it go faster, Ken. By the way, before I forget, I want to thank Formica Corporation for donating all our sample material for the show tonight. They carry a full line of solid surface materials. You can check out their website at formica.com and see all the new patterns available. But they gave us several sheets of different colors to use on the show, and we just want to say thanks. Okay, now, if we did this right, you'll be able to turn that around.
Of course, if we did it wrong.
Right.
And
you did it wrong.
We did it wrong. All right. Actually, if we did it right, we'll turn this around.
There you go. All right.
And
those will mate together
beautiful.
perfectly. Okay. Now, what we actually have here is a wave that comes together. Mm-hmm. So the high point and the low point meet each other, interlock, and as this is drawn together, these can't go up and down at all. So they match perfectly on top. So that it's a way that's still done. It's been around for a long time. There's some other techniques that we'll show you in a bit that will do the same thing, but
yeah, no, this is it. Definitely is one of a kind.
Okay,
it's definitely one of a kind.
All right. The next one you wanted to show. Are you going to do a?
We're going to take and
you going to do a straight cut.
The next thing we'll show you is a straight cut. Now, you'll want to check our archives because. Danny showed you an upside down seaming process. That was 2 weeks ago.
Right, and that's on the archives of the 21st, November 21st. So if you want to see Danny's method being done, because it's also a great method, look at those archives and you can view his being done. But we just didn't want to go over it again tonight. Now, do you need 2 more pieces of material?
If we want to grab that one right there.
Okay, excuse me, folks.
We'll flip this right around. And the next thing we want to show you is a method that I'm not really particularly, that I don't like very much, but it's common to the industry. And what it is just 2 straight cuts. The router we're going to use for that is already set up right over here. And what this router has is, and we preset this, we preset this up. This has in it a compression spiral bit.
Next set.
It cuts both from the top and the bottom to the middle, which what that does is it gives you clean edges, top and bottom edge.
Just take that piece.
Oh, a very good job.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll spin this around real quick. Okay, and all we'll do is just quite simply, since we're going to be running this up against our straight edge, we would do exactly the same thing. We could just take this with our square. We don't need to take much more than maybe 1/8 of an inch of material off. We'll set that. Then all we have to do is just take this, set it there. Let's see, that's set there. And that's set there.
Check this one again here.
Yep. And it's that simple.
Now, go ahead and make that first cut, but I have a quick question. Will we take this and move it over this way, or will we flip it and use the same side, or do you use each side?
Well, that's the problem really with this method, to be honest with you, is this is going to be riding against the straight edge.
Right.
Any deviation in the straight edge, if it has a bow in it, is going to be pronounced in the material. And it's not, even by flipping the edges, you're not really going to get a true mirror cut.
Okay.
That's the problem. And I'm hoping that doesn't show itself too much. Could you just plug that in for me,
Yep,
please? Real
absolutely.
Basically, we could hook a vacuum right to this.
Of course, I might add that the seam will only be as good as the operator.
Yes.
That's doing the seam.
So in this case, but in this case, the one thing about this type of a joint, it doesn't require the same sensitivity to running the tool that you might find required to get a mirror seam. Once again, the only thing we're doing is milling two straight edges. Okay, once again, you can see we can set this up. There you go.
You going to pull it? Just go ahead and pull it.
I ran it on that way. Yeah, I'll pull it back towards me this way. And once again, very simply.
We really should have hooked up the dust collector.
Yeah, but this is more fun.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the thing about dust collection, is it doesn't look like you're doing anything.
Okay, now. And the whole principle behind this is now that we've run the two straight edges, we just butt the material, and there's our joint. It's not a horrible joint, and it's really hard. It's really hard to see. But we have brand new straight edges, brand new bits, so it protects us a little bit. Right. The older a straight edge becomes, or the longer, this is very short.
Right.
The older a tool becomes, you get more play in the collet, in the spindle,
right,
and the bit. The more those imperfections will start to really show themselves out. But we'll pull the seam, and the other advantage we have here too is this is a light color.
Exactly.
Light colors are extremely forgiving.
Right.
Dark colors will just hang you out to dry if you make a mistake in that regard. So this is another seam. Another seam I wanted to touch on very briefly. Once again, you can see the mirror seam. I believe that was in the October 17th show.
Right.
And that is archived. You can see how to do a mirror seam. We have the template. John has it right here. This is actually the seam that I recommend by far. And I think within the industry, the preponderance of recommendation, especially for manufacturers, is this seam.
Right.
Because it's almost impossible to screw it up.
Right.
And this particular fixture makes doing that process even faster and simpler.
Right.
It's a way to make your shop make a lot more money for you.
And so if you want to see this, you can see it on the archives for the October 17th show. So just take a look at that, and you can go from there.
One other one I wanted to talk about, which is, and I hear guys that run these, is a saw cut seam. We're not going to show you how that's done, only because really no manufacturers recommend that. What happens is when you do a saw cut seam, the blade, as the teeth are coming up the vertical wall, are creating a score line.
Right.
That score line is called a stress riser crack. You have built your top with cracks in it. Some guys get away with it, and because they get away with it for a period of time, they think, well, there's nothing wrong with it. Point is it's a warranty headache for manufacturers, and a fabricator could find himself getting hung out to dry if the manufacturer ever catches on to what they're doing.
Now, most of the guys that are doing a a seam with a saw cutter, doing it on like a panel saw or something, like on
Correct.
a straight bake or something like that. I don't know of anybody that's really doing a saw cut seam with, you know, either the Festool or any of the other saws like that. Although I have heard people say that you can do a seam with a Festool plunge saw, but again, you know, it's just not recommended because you don't know what's going to happen later.
Exactly. So what we're going to do here in a few minutes, I know we're just about out of time for this segment, is we are going to pull these joints dry right now.
Right.
We are going to do them hard later on because next week, and I want to make everybody aware of this because I think this is a real important feature.
Right.
Next week, we're going to be doing a show on finishing seams.
Right.
But also, we're going to talk about how to polish tops.
Oh, with Danny's setup.
That's right.
Okay.
So if you've ever had a dark color you've had to deal with, or you've ever had to deal with polishing tops, that's something you don't want to miss because that is really, really a real hang-up for a lot of guys.
Now,
So
we're also going to be talking about surface levelers, electric
we are.
and air.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about just sanding off the tops. We'll probably be showing again the Rotex to do the seams, and we'll be talking about doing the seams in the field or in the shop.
Okay.
How are we doing on time?
We still got plenty of time, which is
right.
good. So once again, just to recap, we did a wavy edge.
Right.
We've done just 2 straight cuts with a straight edge. Now, for a shorter seam, that's easy to get away with.
Right.
When you get into longer seams, you can get yourself in a lot more trouble because you won't get your joints to mate as cleanly. Okay. And we also talked about the saw cut, which is really not recommended by us or anybody else. Right after we come back after the break, we're going to talk about how to pull these joints. We have the Bessie system, we have the Beaver system, and we also have
kind of a Danny system, which is used for the tops.
Okay.
We'll be
so
using
anyway, we got that coming, so hang with us.